Have you ever stood up from your favorite chair and felt that sharp pull in your knees or that heavy stiffness in your hips, even though you were only sitting for a little while? Many seniors tell me they blame it on age or the weather, but something else is often happening beneath the surface, something they don't even realize. A patient of mine once shared a story that captures this perfectly. She told me she would sit comfortably for hours watching her shows or reading, and every time she stood, the pain felt like her joints were waking up angry. She thought arthritis was the only reason, until we discovered the real culprit hiding in plain sight. I want you to imagine this for a moment. Picture yourself sinking into a soft couch or leaning forward in a dining chair without support. Maybe you cross your legs, tuck one foot under the other, or sit for long stretches without moving. These small, familiar habits feel harmless, but over time, they quietly strain the hips, knees, and lower back. You don't feel the damage happening in the moment. You feel it when you stand. The truth is that joint pain from sitting is far more common than most older adults realize. Certain sitting positions increase pressure inside the joints, reduce circulation, and keep muscles from supporting you the way they should. When you sit too long, your hip flexors tighten and tug on your lower back. Your knees bear more weight than they're designed for. Poor posture reduces the lubrication that keeps joints gliding smoothly, and muscles that should protect your joints begin to weaken. All of this creates the perfect setup for a pain spike the moment you rise from your chair. What surprises many seniors is that one simple sitting habit, something they do every single day, is the biggest cause of these sudden pain flare-ups. And once they understand it, everything begins to change. Over the years, I've seen countless patients reduce morning stiffness, ease knee pain, and regain comfort just by correcting the way they sit. Stay with me, and if you haven't already, I warmly invite you to subscribe, like, and share the Senior Health Daily channel. In the next part, we'll uncover the sitting habits that silently trigger joint pain and what you can do to protect your body. Why? Sitting influences joint pain more than seniors think. Most people don't realize how deeply sitting shapes the way the joints feel. It seems like the safest, most harmless position. After all, you're resting, not lifting anything heavy, not climbing stairs, not stressing your knees or hips. But the truth is that the body wasn't designed to stay still for long periods of time. It was designed to move, to shift, to carry weight in patterns that let the joints circulate fluid and stay healthy. When we sit for too long, especially as older adults, the body starts to respond in ways that quietly build towards stiffness and pain. Think about what happens when you settle into a chair. Your hips fold into a tight angle, reducing space for the muscles and joints in that area to stretch naturally. Your knees stay bent for extended periods, which increases pressure on the joint surfaces and slows blood flow. Your spine curves into a shape that compresses the lower back. These aren't dramatic movements. They don't hurt in the moment, but they are exactly the type of small, consistent pressures that accumulate over time. Inside every joint is a fluid called synovial fluid. It works like natural lubrication, making movement smooth and protecting cartilage from friction. But this fluid circulates only when you move. When you sit still for long periods, especially in a deep or slouched position, that lubrication doesn't spread well. The joints become dry, slow, and stiff. As we age, this effect becomes stronger because the body produces less synovial fluid and needs more movement to keep the joints nourished. This is why so many seniors feel a sudden pain spike when they stand up after sitting. The joints haven't been moving, so they wake up cold, almost like a door hinge that hasn't been opened in a long time. The moment weight returns to the knees or hips, discomfort flares. Many older adults assume this is simply part of aging, but it's not. It's the body reacting to stillness and compression. I often tell my patients that sitting is not the enemy. The problem is how long and how still we remain in the same position. Even the most comfortable chair can become a source of joint pain when the body stays frozen. And as we continue through this video, you'll see exactly how one specific sitting habit becomes the biggest trigger of pain spikes for seniors. Hidden ways sitting affects joint alignment. One of the most misunderstood things about sitting is how quietly it shifts the alignment of the entire body. Most seniors don't notice these shifts because they happen slowly, little by little, as you settle deeper into a chair, lean to one side, or let your posture relax. But even small changes in alignment can place a surprising amount of pressure on the joints, especially the hips, knees, and lower back. Let's take the pelvis, for example. When you sit in a slouched position, the pelvis tilts backward, flattening the natural curve in your lower spine. This position forces the muscles around the hips to tighten and shorten. With time, the knees start to rotate inward, increasing pressure on the joint surfaces. Many seniors come to me asking why their knees ache after sitting, even though they haven't walked far. The answer often lies in how their pelvis and hips were positioned for the last hour. Slouching also affects the spine. When your back rounds, the vertebrae in the lower spine compress. This compression sends extra force into the hips, transferring stress downward into the knees. Some seniors even develop pain in the ankles and feet because the misalignment travels through the entire chain of joints. It's remarkable how a small slump in posture can create a ripple effect all the way down the legs. Crossing your legs adds another layer of misalignment. It twists the knees slightly and shifts weight unevenly. Over time, this habit can create more pressure on one side of the hips and weaken support on the other, making standing up feel painful or awkward. I've had patients who developed persistent knee soreness simply because they crossed their legs the same way every day without realizing how much strain it created. And then there's the issue of chairs without proper lumbar support. When the lower back isn't supported, the entire spine collapses inward. The shoulders round, the head tilts forward, and the hips shift out of their natural position. Many seniors think their lower back pain is caused by standing too much, when in reality, it began with long hours in chairs that offer little support. All of these hidden alignment changes happen quietly. They don't call attention to themselves until the moment you stand and your joints protest. But once you begin to understand how posture and alignment influence pain, the body's signals start to make sense. You begin to see that discomfort isn't random or mysterious. It's your body reacting to small patterns that have built up over months or even years. Understanding these alignment habits is the first step toward changing them. And once you change them, the joints respond with less stiffness, fewer pain spikes, and a sense of ease that many seniors haven't felt in a long time. The sitting habit that causes the biggest pain spike. Now that we've explored how sitting affects the joints and how alignment quietly changes without us realizing it, let's talk about the sitting habit that causes the biggest spike in joint pain. It's not the soft couch, the low chair, or even the posture itself, although all those things play a role. The real culprit is something even simpler and far more common. It's the habit of sitting for long periods without changing your position. This surprises many older adults because they often think, "But I wasn't doing anything, I was just sitting." Yet that's exactly what makes it so challenging for the joints. Even the most comfortable position becomes harmful when it doesn't change. When you sit still for too long, the muscles shorten and tighten, especially around the hips. Circulation slows. The hips compress. The knees stay locked in one angle, and your lower back must support more weight than it's designed to hold for extended periods. I've had countless seniors tell me they didn't feel any discomfort while sitting. The pain showed up the moment they tried to stand. That sudden sharpness, that heaviness or throbbing in the knees or hips isn't a sign of sudden injury. It's the joints waking up after being still for too long, trying to move again after losing their lubrication and warmth. I like to describe it as trying to open a cold old hinge. It's stiff until motion begins, and the same is true for the human body. One patient told me she loved her recliner so much she barely moved from it during the afternoon. She would have her snack, watch her shows, talk on the phone, and relax. But every evening when she stood up, the pain in her knees felt unbearable. She believed it was arthritis getting worse, but when we broke down her routine, the issue wasn't her joints failing her. It was the hours of stillness. Once she began shifting her position every 20 to 30 minutes, her pain began to ease. Even those who sit upright in a supportive chair feel this effect. Sitting still reduces circulation to the cartilage, which depends entirely on movement for nourishment. The longer the stillness, the drier and more irritated the joints become, and that irritation is what creates the spike of pain you feel the moment weight returns to your legs. This one sitting habit is so powerful because it affects every part of the body. It weakens the muscles that protect the joints. It increases inflammation. It reduces flexibility. And the scariest part is that most seniors do it without realizing how much harm it causes. But the good news is that awareness is the first step toward relief. Once you understand this habit, you can begin making small changes that bring big improvements. And in the next section, we'll look at the sitting mistakes seniors commonly make and how each one contributes to the pain they feel. Mistakes seniors commonly make while sitting. As we start to look more closely at daily habits, one thing becomes very clear. Most seniors don't realize how the way they sit shapes their joint pain. These mistakes aren't dramatic. They aren't intentional. They're simply comfortable routines that slowly create strain over time. And because the discomfort doesn't appear while they're sitting, it can be hard to make the connection. One of the most common patterns I see begins with soft, sinking couches. They feel cozy, warm, familiar. But when a couch is too soft, your hips fall lower than your knees, tilting your pelvis out of its natural alignment. This position increases pressure on the knees and pulls at the lower back. Many older adults sit this way for hours, unaware of how much stress is accumulating in the joints. Leaning forward in a recliner or dining chair is another quiet culprit. When the body shifts forward, the spine rounds and the hips tighten. Over time, the muscles in the lower back shorten and the knees bear more weight than they're designed to handle. I once worked with a gentleman who couldn't understand why his knees throbbed every evening. As it turned out, he spent every afternoon sitting at his dining table, leaning forward to read the newspaper. His posture, not his age, was shaping his pain. Sitting on low chairs creates a similar problem. When a chair is too low, standing up becomes harder, and the knees must push with extra force. Seniors often describe a sharp sting or heaviness when rising from beds, couches, or chairs that sit too close to the floor. That force adds up day after day until the joints finally begin to protest. Another habit many seniors overlook is sitting in chairs without armrests. Without arm support, the body must rely entirely on the joints to lift itself when standing. Over time, this wears down the shoulders, hips, and knees. I've seen seniors struggle more with transitions simply because they lacked the small boost that armrests provide. And perhaps the most universal mistake of all is remaining still while watching TV. Many seniors get absorbed in their favorite shows, and before they realize it, 2 or 3 hours have passed. They haven't moved, they haven't shifted, they haven't stretched. When they finally stand, the joints react with stiffness, swelling, or a sudden sharp jolt of pain. These sitting habits all have one thing in common. They place the body in positions that feel comfortable at first, but gradually weaken the muscles, compress the joints, and build tension. And because these moments feel so ordinary, it's easy to overlook the role they play in creating daily discomfort. But once you begin noticing these patterns, you start to see your body differently. You begin to understand why your knees ache after a TV marathon, or why your hips feel tight after sitting on the couch. And that understanding is the doorway to real relief. Simple science behind sitting-related joint pain. Now that we've explored the everyday sitting habits that quietly strain your joints, I want to take you a little deeper into what's happening inside the body when you stay in one position too long. You don't need complicated medical terms to understand it. You only need to imagine how your joints behave when movement stops. Every joint in the body relies on motion to stay healthy. Inside each joint is a thin layer of cartilage, and surrounding that cartilage is a special fluid that nourishes it. Think of this fluid like oil for a hinge. The more you move, the more that lubrication spreads, protecting the joint surfaces and allowing them to glide without friction. But when you sit too long, that fluid doesn't circulate the way it should. The joint becomes dry and stiff. It isn't damaged in that moment, but it's far less prepared to support you when you try to stand. This lack of movement also affects the surrounding muscles. When muscles stay in one position for too long, they begin to tighten and shorten. A tight muscle doesn't cushion the joint the way a healthy one does. Instead of absorbing pressure, the joint has to take on more impact. That's why getting up after a long sitting session can feel like stepping onto legs that haven't warmed up yet. The muscles aren't supporting you. They're still locked in the shape of your sitting posture. Inflammation plays a role too. Joints that stay compressed for too long become more sensitive. Inflammation can build even when you're at rest, especially in the knees and lower back where pressure is highest. Many seniors describe a feeling of swelling or heaviness after sitting. This isn't imagined. It's the body responding to a prolonged lack of circulation. The longer you sit, the more responsive the joints become to discomfort. This is why even a short walk across the room after being still for hours can feel unexpectedly painful. The joints are trying to catch up. They're trying to find lubrication again. They're trying to remind the muscles around them to wake up and help. Some seniors tell me they feel fine once they get moving after the first few steps. That improvement is your body reactivating. It's movement restoring the lubrication, warming the muscles, and easing inflammation. The pain spike isn't your body breaking down. It's your body asking for movement, circulation, and balance. What I want you to understand from this simple science is that your pain is not random. It's not mysterious. And it's not a sign of weakness. It's the natural reaction of a body that needs more gentle motion throughout the day. When you see pain through this lens, you can finally begin making changes that support long-term comfort. Real stories from patients. The science behind sitting-related joint pain becomes even clearer when you see it play out in real lives. Over the years, I've had countless seniors walk into my office with the same question written across their face. Why does this hurt so much when I'm not even doing anything wrong? And often, their breakthroughs begin with the simplest changes. One woman I worked with, a retired librarian named Martha, struggled with stubborn hip pain for nearly a decade. She believed it was aging, maybe early arthritis, or something she'd simply have to endure, but after talking with her, I realized she spent almost every evening curled into a soft, deep sofa that swallowed her hips. She had no idea how much pressure that position placed on her joints. When she switched to a firmer chair with proper support and stood up every 30 minutes, she told me her hips felt lighter than they had in years. Her joints weren't damaged beyond repair. They were asking for a better environment. Then there was Harold, a kind and thoughtful man who loved watching baseball on TV. He'd sit for hours without moving, legs stretched out, back slouched, shoulders rounded. He came to me convinced something serious was wrong with his knees because he felt sharp pain every time he stood up. What surprised him most was that the solution wasn't surgery or medication. It was movement. Once he began breaking up his sitting sessions and strengthening the muscles around his knees, his pain gradually faded. He told me he felt as though his joints were waking up after a long sleep. Another patient, Catherine, always sat at a low sewing table. The chair was beautiful and sentimental, but far too low for her body. Every time she stood, she felt a jolt in her lower back that left her frozen for a moment. When she finally switched to a chair at the proper height, she called me just a week later and said, "I had no idea something so small could change so much." These stories aren't rare. They're happening every day to people who assume joint pain must come from big movements, not from stillness. But the truth is, your joints feel your habits long before you do. And the moment you recognize the patterns that silently strain your body, you gain the power to change the way you feel, one small adjustment at a time. Stress plus sitting, a hidden combination. As we move deeper into this conversation, I want to share something many seniors overlook, not because they don't care, but because no one ever told them how profoundly emotions and posture intertwine. Sitting habits alone can strain your joints, but when you add stress into the mix, the impact becomes even stronger. Think of it as a quiet partnership between the mind and the body, one that works beneath the surface in ways you may not immediately notice. Whenever you feel worried, overwhelmed, or tense, your muscles respond long before your mind fully registers the stress. Even while sitting, the shoulders lift slightly, the jaw tightens, the breath becomes shallow, and the lower back stiffens. These tiny changes may seem insignificant, but over minutes, then hours, they start to create a different kind of pressure inside your joints. Muscles that are meant to relax remain partially contracted, squeezing the hips, pulling the spine forward, and increasing the load on the knees. I once had a patient named Linda, who came to me during one of the most stressful periods of her life. She couldn't understand why her knee pain had flared so suddenly when nothing in her routine had changed. But when we looked a little closer, we discovered she had been spending hours sitting at her kitchen table, lost in thought, shoulders hunched, breath tight, body still. Her stress wasn't just in her mind. It was living inside her muscles. When she learned to pause, breathe, and shift positions gently, her pain eased in a way she didn't think was possible. Another senior, Paul, experienced sharp hip pain during a long season of anxiety after his retirement. What he didn't realize was that his body was reacting to emotional tension every time he sat down. His muscles were bracing for something they couldn't name. He described it perfectly when he said, "I didn't think I was stressed. I just thought I was tired. But my body knew before my mind did." When emotional tension and prolonged sitting combine, the joints feel it almost immediately. The breath becomes restricted, which means the muscles receive less oxygen. The body stiffens, circulation slows, inflammation quietly rises, and by the time you stand up, your joints feel like they've been holding their breath with you. Understanding this connection doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It simply gives you the power to see your body with more compassion. Your pain isn't just mechanical, it's emotional, it's human. And once you recognize how deeply stress influences your physical comfort, you begin to unlock one of the most powerful tools for healing. Now that we've explored the deep connection between stress, sitting, and the pain that follows, I want to pause with you for just a moment. If you're listening right now and something in this conversation is helping you understand your body in a new way, I truly hope you'll take a second to subscribe, like, and share the Senior Health Daily channel. Every bit of support helps us reach more older adults who are living with unnecessary pain, confusion, or fear about what's happening inside their bodies. And together, we can build a community where seniors feel informed, confident, and supported throughout their health journey. Practical fixes that reduce pain immediately. Now let's return to what you can do, starting today, to reduce sitting-related joint pain in a meaningful way. Because after years of working with seniors, I've learned something important. Small changes create big relief, and the body responds far more quickly than most people expect, once you give it the right conditions. One of the simplest and most effective tools I recommend is what I call the 30-minute reset. It doesn't require exercise or equipment. It simply means standing up, stretching gently, or taking a few steps every 30 minutes. This brief moment of movement resets your circulation, reactivates your joints, and breaks the cycle of stiffness before it builds. Many seniors tell me this one shift alone transforms the way they feel by the end of the day. Posture also plays a powerful role. The best sitting position for seniors is one where the feet rest flat on the floor, the spine stays neutral, and the hips remain level with or slightly above the knees. A small pillow behind the lower back can work wonders, offering support that prevents the pelvis from tilting and protects the lower spine. And if your chair is too soft or too deep, your joints may be fighting harder than you realize. Switching to a seat with firmer support often brings immediate relief. Standing up slowly is another small habit that matters more than you might think. When you rise gradually, The joints have time to warm up, the muscles have a chance to activate, and the body transitions smoothly instead of abruptly. Seniors who shift to this slower rhythm often notice their pain spikes disappear almost overnight. During breaks, gentle leg and hip stretches can revive tired joints. Even a simple ankle rotation, knee lift, or hip opening movement helps restore flow and ease tension. These movements are small, but they unlock stiffness and give your joints the nourishment they crave. And perhaps the most empowering thing of all is recognizing that changing just one sitting habit can reduce knee or hip pain by 30 to 50%. I've watched this happen again and again. A better chair, a higher seat, a firmer cushion, a mindful posture. These are not dramatic lifestyle overhauls. They're small choices that give your joints space to breathe and heal. Your body is not fighting against you. It's waiting for your support. And once you offer it, even in tiny ways, it responds with gratitude. As we continue exploring what truly helps reduce pain from long sitting sessions, I want you to picture something simple. Your joints want movement, but not too much, and not too little. They thrive in that gentle balance where motion keeps them nourished and alignment keeps them protected. And the beautiful part is, this balance doesn't require intense exercise or dramatic lifestyle changes. It begins with small, thoughtful shifts that fit naturally into your day. One of the most effective adjustments seniors can make is to choose chairs that support their natural posture. When your hips are lifted slightly above your knees, your weight distributes more evenly. Your spine settles into a neutral shape. Your lower back stops fighting gravity. I've watched seniors transform their comfort just by switching from a soft couch to a firmer seat that supports their hips instead of burying them. Their posture improves without effort. Their joints begin to breathe. I often recommend placing a small pillow behind the lower back for seniors who spend long periods seated. This simple cushion fills the gap that many chairs leave unaddressed, giving the spine the support it was designed to have. When your lower back feels cared for, your hips relax, your knees shift into a healthier angle, and your entire alignment begins to strengthen without strain. For many older adults, one of the biggest breakthroughs comes from learning to stand up slowly instead of abruptly. Think of rising from a chair like waking your joints gently instead of jolting them awake. When you pause before standing, take a breath, and engage your core and leg muscles, you give your joints a moment to warm up. That reduces the shock, the tightness, and the sudden spike of pain many seniors feel when they stand too quickly. Movement is also deeply healing. Simple, easy stretches during your breaks can revive your joints in ways that surprise you. A slow rotation of the ankles, a few deep breaths while lifting the knees, or a light hip stretch can restore circulation and melt away stiffness. These aren't workouts. They're small acts of kindness your body recognizes immediately. I've seen seniors reduce their pain by 30 to 50% just by adjusting one daily habit. That's the power of awareness. The moment you understand what your body needs, everything begins to shift. You no longer feel helpless. You feel involved. You feel capable. You feel hopeful again. And that hope is the beginning of healing. Because when you treat your body with gentleness and intention, it responds more quickly and more generously than most people ever expect. Long-term strategies for joint-friendly sitting. As we look toward long-term relief, I want you to remember something simple yet powerful. Your joints are always listening. Every day, every movement, every moment of stillness becomes a message your body carries forward. And when you start making choices that support your joints consistently, even in small ways, your body begins to respond with strength, comfort, and resilience. One of the most meaningful long-term strategies is choosing chairs that fit your body, rather than forcing your body to adapt to the chair. Seniors often sit in furniture selected decades earlier, long before their joints needed extra support. A well-designed chair lifts your hips, supports your spine, and keeps your feet grounded. Over time, this alignment reduces strain and prevents the daily buildup of pressure that leads to pain flare-ups. I've watched seniors go from chronic stiffness to daily comfort simply by upgrading their seating. Reducing soft seating is another gentle shift that leads to surprising results. Plush couches and deeply cushioned chairs may feel comforting, but they often place the body at angles that weaken muscles and overstretch joints. Replacing some of that soft seating with firmer options creates a healthier foundation. You don't have to remove the cozy pieces you love. You only need balance, spaces where your body feels supported instead of sinking. Incorporating micro movements throughout the day is one of the best gifts you can give your joints. These are not exercises. They're tiny moments of motion that reawaken muscles and encourage circulation. Shifting your weight, rotating your ankles, rolling your shoulders, or gently engaging your core while seated can all prevent stiffness from building. These micro movements remind your joints that they are still alive, still capable, still connected to your strength. Strengthening the muscles that support your joints is another long-term strategy that pays off in ways many seniors never expect. When muscles become weak, the joints take on more load than they're meant to bear. But when you gently strengthen your legs, hips, and core, even with simple, slow movements, the pressure on your joints decreases, and your body moves with more ease. Over time, this shift can dramatically reduce the pain you feel when standing or walking after sitting. Perhaps the most transformative long-term shift comes from teaching your body to find proper alignment again. Years of sitting in unhealthy positions can train the body into patterns that don't serve you anymore. But with awareness, small corrections, and gentle daily practice, your alignment begins to return. Your posture becomes lighter, your movements become smoother, and your joints regain the balance they've been missing. I want you to know that change doesn't happen through force. It happens through consistency, patience, and compassion for your own body. Your joints are not failing you. They are responding to the life you've lived. And with the right support, they can still carry you with steadiness and comfort for many years ahead. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want to remind you of something deeply important. Joint pain from sitting is not a sign that your body is giving up or that age has taken away your strength. It is simply your body's gentle way of asking for a little more movement, a little more balance, and a little more kindness. Your joints speak to you through sensations, stiffness, and sometimes discomfort. But the message is never hopeless. It's a nudge, a whisper, a reminder that small adjustments can bring real relief. When you begin to understand your sitting habits, you gain something incredibly powerful: control. You start to see how your posture, your chair, and your daily routines shape the way your joints feel. And with that understanding, you're no longer reacting to pain. You're guiding your body. You're giving it what it needs. You're participating in your own healing in a way that empowers you rather than frightens you. Your joints have carried you through decades of memories, hard work, laughter, responsibilities, and milestones. They have supported you more faithfully than you may realize, and they deserve your patience. They deserve your gratitude. They deserve gentle attention as you move through this next chapter of your life. I want you to hold on to this truth. Healing is possible at any age, whether you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or beyond. Small daily choices can reshape how your body feels each morning. Change doesn't come from force. It comes from awareness and compassion for yourself. And please remember, you are never alone on this journey. Senior Health Daily is here beside you, supporting you with knowledge, encouragement, and care. If today's message brought you clarity or comfort, I warmly invite you to like, share, and subscribe so more seniors can find relief, confidence, and hope in their bodies. You deserve to feel good, and together, we'll keep moving toward that better tomorrow.